As we go through today's webinar, Richard Squires from Foresight will talk about the Sustainability Toolkit. You can find this toolkit on the Spirits Victoria website by clicking on the Knowledge Hub, then down to the Industry Resources, and scrolling down to the Benchmarking Sustainability box, where you'll find the initial report that was prepared by Foresight and a link to download the toolkit. Remember, this is a toolkit that helps you extract information from your financial records and the relevant information that can measure your sustainability metrics. By recording and submitting this information to Spirits Victoria for this project, you can help us establish the industry's sustainability performance, but it can also provide you with a simple, easy to read dashboard which helps you understand your own performance in measuring your sustainability.
All right, we get going. Thanks everyone for jumping online today, or if you're viewing this on the recording on our website, thanks for jumping on and viewing it. Today we're going to be having a presentation from Richard at Foresight on the Sustainability Toolkit for greenhouse gas emissions and tracking sustainability. We launched that at the conference last year, and we're looking to continue to roll that out. So with the support of the state government and the distillery door funding, we've been able to do this for another 3 years. So we're going to have a report in 2025, this year, 2026 and 2027. And the purpose is to build a really strong baseline of information from Victorian distilleries so that we can have an accurate understanding of where we sit from a sustainability perspective, and make our businesses stronger as well for partners that are looking for that information. We're also looking at rolling this program out nationally, so it'll be really interesting to see this go further out and be further utilised. So that's pretty exciting to see it being used beyond Victoria, and also to kind of demonstrate to the rest of the nation how strong Victoria is in our distilling industry. I think the benefits of this program, I think it's really good to get ahead of sustainability reporting and understanding of greenhouse gas emissions and baseline. We are seeing it mandated in some countries, in some export markets, and Europe especially is a strong region that's asking for this. And so if you are going through procurement processes, they will have questions on your sustainability understanding and your greenhouse gas emissions. And so using this tool will basically make sure you can tick that box and so that you can actually do it. And we're kind of going to pull this together. The idea is it's done on the calendar year. So we pull together the previous calendar year's reporting and come up with the benchmark for that. And so we'll see that we've done 2024. So I'll have 3 more years. And each year, ideally, we'll get more participants and a stronger data pool to pull on. So that being said, all right, we'll hand over to Richard from Foresight. Thanks, Richard, for pulling this together.
Hi, Sam. Thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. My name's Richard. I'm from Foresight Consulting Group. I spend my time consulting with businesses and government entities, helping them measure their environmental impacts. I work with companies to help decarbonise their operations and advise on their supply chain impacts as well, in amongst some auditing and other work that we do at Foresight Consulting Group. But last year we were lucky enough to get together with Sam and Seb and Spirits Victoria with the help of the state government funding. We put together a report which took data from 8 distilleries in Victoria, and we were able to put together a report, as Sam said, which we're looking to repeat for the next 3 years. So that report, the quality of that report will sort of hinge on people picking up the tool and filling it out, learning how to use it, filling it out, and sending us across the data. So the more buy-in that we can get and the more participation that we can get across the industry, no matter the size of your distillery and no matter what the product is, we're looking at just capturing as much data as we can get. And for the purposes of showing you how to use the tool that we've created, we've got this webinar today where I can walk through the tabs of the toolkit, which is available for use for everybody, and I can field some questions if there's anyone who has questions around that today. What we find is at an entry point, there's a lot in sustainability which is around jargon and lingo, and definitions are a really big thing. Making sense of the impacts of various aspects of a distillery. It's not all that complex, but it can appear very, very complex because there's a lot of words and terms that we use. So I think now, if it's okay with Sam, I'll pull up the calculator. So wait, just a little bit more background about it. The calculator we designed to measure the greenhouse gas impacts of the distillery. Greenhouse gas measurement happens in 3 scopes. So we talk about scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. Greenhouse gas emissions are obviously emitted into the atmosphere from combusting fossil fuels mainly, and these occur at various locations and places during the supply chain. So scope 1 emissions is basically the emissions that occur as the result of operations that you own, things that you own. So vehicles, equipment, your actual distilling process in the facility, and what is occurring sort of on site, the impacts of what's occurring on site. Scope 2 emissions are from purchased electricity. So every site will be powered. People will be using a mix of potentially some solar on the roof, but most people will be getting purchased electricity from the grid. And various resources go and get combusted to make that electricity. So whether it's coal and gas in Australia with some wind and some sun, that'll go into the mix, and then that's what you'll purchase. So that's your scope 2 emissions. And then scope 3 emissions are basically upstream from your business, so your suppliers, the farms, transport of goods from those farms to your distillery, and then downstream. So what happens after the product's been used, what happens to the rubbish, and also all of the logistics, the emissions that come from transporting the goods that you produce downstream, also end of life of products. So we actually saw last year in our study that there was great buy-in across the industry. Some distilleries are very world class in terms of their ability to be sustainable. Everything from sort of recycling their resources, by purchasing 100% recycling, packaging, and really using clean energy, and with great aspiration as well. So we saw some great buy-in, we saw some world-class examples, and so we're just hoping to build on this. So in the interest of me not waffling on all day about this stuff, I'll introduce now the tool, and I'll do a full walkthrough of the tool that we have created. And please ask some questions as we go. So I'll just share my screen now. All right. Now, hopefully everybody is seeing the screen here with the Victorian Spirits Industries Toolkit. There's a little section here. This is about, so this is what the toolkit is about. There's a disclaimer in here. There's also a navigation. There's a navigation part here. Sorry, I'm just going to try and move this. So the navigation headings there are clickable. so they can move you around the tool as you go. So distillery information, definitions, dashboard, and other tabs. So that's just a way of moving through the tool. You don't have to use that particular navigation part, but it is handy to know it's there if you'd like to use that page. So if you're a distillery and you're looking at filling out this toolkit to find out your emissions, we seek your basic information. So all of this information is kept private and confidential. And depending on what the distillery sort of wants to do with the information, but from our end, this is all confidential. The distillery name, their location, this is for you to fill out. Site visit, if Foresight have come out to you, that's more for us. Your primary product, asset type, whether you own or lease the asset. This is a big one. A lot of distilleries are leasing, which impacts how they can control what occurs on the property, whether they can buy in solar, put solar panels on, and do various things on the property. So that's a material factor. We take ground floor area, so we take the size of the facility into consideration, also the number of employees. As Sam said earlier, we work on a calendar year. So we have here a section for you to put in the litres of alcohol produced. So if you were starting this process today, you would fill in retrospect. So you would do your calendar year 24, and then in 2026 you would do the 2025. So when filling out these types of toolkits, we wait till the distiller has all the information that they need. Then they put together all that information, fill it out in the tool for the year prior. On the next tab, we've got definitions. So we've got a whole page here of terms that you'll see throughout the toolkit, and these will help you as you go. So if you come across a term that you're not familiar with, you can come to this page and have a little look at the definitions there. The dashboard is the next tab. And the dashboard basically is your results page. So as you go through the tool, all of the data that will go into the tool is on the light blue Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 tabs. And that information then talks back to this dashboard. And this is your results page. So you can fill this out every year and see your sustainability, your performance against sustainability metrics year on year. Now, what the sections that we've got here are litres of water used per litre of alcohol produced, fuels, so energy used per litre of alcohol produced, and it'll give you a little comparison whether you've gone up or down from last year. Emissions, so this is grams of CO2 equivalent per litre of alcohol produced. We do everything here per litre of alcohol produced to get an average, so it takes size out of it. So what we saw is the larger distilleries are the most efficient because they've got scale. However, it's really important for us to know litres of alcohol produced because we can scale your usage against other distilleries. Energy, megajoules of energy, litres of alcohol, also solar. So the percentage of solar being used for electricity. There's a little explainer next to this. And then this part here is literally, as I said before, the Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 emissions, and also the total of those three. So again, Scope 1 emissions happen on site or with vehicles that you own. Scope 2 emissions is purchased electricity that comes in. Scope 3 emissions occur up and downstream from your distillery. Okay, so another results page here is the recommendations. So this is just a basic comparator. So once all your data's in there, it'll come out with your electricity figure, and it'll say that compared with the rest of the field, so that compared with the rest of the Victorian distillers, this is based on our industry study already produced. This is where you're at in compared with them. So it can sort of in comparison with them. So it'll say whether you're using much more or much less, or around about the same electricity per litre of alcohol to your peers. And then there's recommendations. So if you're really ambitious, you can look here and see a solution that you might want to do some research and some costing. If you're intermediate ambition and your business is growing and you're putting together the funds to purchase a sustainability option, and essential things that you can do straight away that are relatively cheap. We've got that sectioned out. So electricity, fuel, energy, solar, materials, water, and waste. They're the key aspects that impact greenhouse gas emissions and distilling. So hopefully that page is making sense to everybody. So dashboard and recommendations, they're your sort of final pages to come back to once you've filled out all your data. Okay, so the data collection piece. There's an about here. So that explains sort of what we're doing. The navigation is the same. So on your about page, you've got that navigation that takes you to all the tabs. This page here takes you to all the data collection tabs. So you've got scope 1 here, emissions from sources owned or controlled by the organisation, scope 2, and scope 3. So what are those and how do you fill out the tool? Let's get into that. I'll go to the scope 1 first. This is usually the best place to start because this information will come from billing and from various locations in your distillery. I've done some sort of dummy numbers here, but on the right-hand side of your calculator, you've got what are scope 1 emissions, how to find the data. So what are you looking for and where is it? Where can you find the data? And how to use the tool. So it should explain to you very simply sort of what you should be doing here. And a general rule is don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Make a start. Try and be as complete as you can. Try and get as much data as you can. And then every year you'll just improve every single time you do it. So what we see with the big organizations is that they notice how they can streamline their billing, or they notice an efficiency that they can build in to their measurement of greenhouse gas emissions, and they just get better and more complete every year. So if you're just making your very first go, jump on here and have a play. You can always delete the data and come back to it, or if there's missing data, you can find it and come back to it. So the first thing is to put in your reporting period. These are in the drop down. So every cell there, calendar year 23-4-5. If you've got data from 23, you can go back and put it in. That's fine. You'd go CY 24, which is last year. And then you go entity name. So this is your own name. Location's always going to be Australia. So what we're looking at here is putting in a supplier, an invoice date, and a fuel type. So let's just say that you've got a vehicle and you've purchased some diesel oil from BP and you've got 75 litres. You can choose between the unit of measurement here, and then it'll give you how much energy that petrol has been able to produce for your use, also the emissions that were emitted as a result of you driving around in your own transport. You might also have in your own facility, let's say, some LPG. So you've got a forklift running in there, or you might have a few tanks, and it's running heat in your distillery. You would grab all the bills, all of the bills from that year, and you'd itemize every single one after the other, all the way down here. Okay, so this is stationary or transport. If you don't know, you don't know, but it's a pretty clear differentiation there. So transport, obviously, something that's moving. Stationary is your building. Put your amount in, put the unit of measurement, and then you'll get your emissions. Now that feeds back into the dashboard and into your recommendations. So you should include all fuels that are on site, that are being utilised on site. That might be natural gas that you're using from the system that's provided to your location. And you can see through here that there's so liquefied natural gas, diesel oil, fuel oil, LPG, ethane, biodiesel, renewable diesel, heating oil, ethanol, and other natural gas liquids. So the main three are the fuels. So that's petrol and diesel, LPG, and natural gas. Should make up pretty much everything, unless you've got a nice funky diesel, biodiesel fixture on your vehicles. All right, so this is a pretty big part of it, and scope one is you and your business. So the best thing about getting this data is that you might work out if you turn off your heaters at a particular time or put them on a timer, you can produce the same amount of alcohol for less energy used. So by filling in this information, you can actually track, okay, in May or June or at some point during the year, we made an investment in to become more efficient, and you can actually start to see that in your greenhouse gas inventory results. All right, that takes care of scope one. So let's say that every time that you go to BP for your cars, or every time that you go to a service station, you should be putting that in as an individual line item. Or if you've got a spreadsheet somewhere else in your business, you can just total them all out and take a total for those 12 months if you don't want to fill in the tool that way. What I find best is, as the business is running, as you get the bills in, you just pop them into the calculator, and then you can forget about them, and you're not sort of faced with this sort of, business is running, you've got plenty of things to do. It means that you then don't have to sit on the tool for 5, 6, 10 hours or a day to fill everything out one by one, which is a sort of project that you wouldn't particularly look forward to unless you sort of had to do it. So that's the way that I find these things work best. So moving on to scope two, scope two should just directly come from your billing. So over here on the right again, we've got the Toolkit guide, what are scope 2 emissions, how to find the data, and where to find the data, how to use the tool as well. So let's just say that you've got no solar and you're not purchasing any green power, you're just with your supplier, let's say it's Origin, and you're purchasing electricity from the grid. You would put your reporting period in, location, supplier name, invoice date, usage period. Some people get monthly, some people get quarterly for their energy, and then electricity type. So electricity from the grid, off the grid, or whether it's self-generated. Now the amount, and this will all be in kilowatt hours, so that's the metric used to measure electricity. Again, in the orange here, it'll show that the energy that was produced by using that electricity, and also the tons of CO2 equivalent that gets emitted into the atmosphere. So wherever you see T.CO2/E, that means tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, and that's gas in the air that gets emitted. All right. So Sam or Jeff, anyone who feels like slowing me down, speeding me up, or getting me to answer questions, please feel free to hold me up at any time, get me to slow down, or or otherwise I'll move on to scope 3. So again, to repeat myself, scope 3 is up and downstream of your distillery. So scope, we've got materials that come in. Let's just say you've got your reporting period there. Your material might be grain coming in. You've got options there. It could be everything that comes in. So it could be herbs for your gin or fruit, bottles that you get in, cardboard, cork, glue, everything that you use from a material perspective to make your product goes into this section. So quantity, drop down for kilograms. So we do all of this in kilograms, final product, and then where it's sourced. So whether you've got it internally sourced or externally. So you might have a farm there where you're growing lots of your fruit or herbs. If you're using those, you would put internally sourced for that. Now, you might be purchasing material that's part recycled, so 50% recycled, 100% recycled. That is where to put this. So reclaimed material, recycled material, virgin material, and then notes. So you might want to just write down. So you've got your supplier isn't here, so you might write down your supplier. Supplier was able to give me X amount of cardboard this year. It was all virgin material. However, they've promised next year they're going to be using recycled material in their product. Please follow up on X date. That's where you can sort of track how your suppliers are performing. And then we can measure your emissions against that, against those materials that have come into the distillery. The next one's waste, and the last one is water. So waste. So again, reporting period, the origin. So you might measure upstream or downstream in the supply chain. Quantity. So here we've got glass bottles in this one. I've gone 50,000. We do that in kilograms. We work out that particular waste is hazardous or non-hazardous, and then where does it go? So is it construction or demolition waste? Is it commercial and industrial waste or general waste? And then was it recycled or not? As you can see, changing the data there changes your emissions. And so this is waste all the way along your supply chain. We saw some great examples of people using waste from their process as feed for sheep, and other people, composting their waste as well, which is fantastic to see. And then water's the final one. So water's a big part of what you guys do. Under the drop-down category here, we've got upstream, so we're withdrawing water from a system, and we're also discharging water. So the source of that water could be coming from any of these places. You can put that in there, then the unit of measurement there, the amount, and then your notes. That'll punch out your emissions, and then you go back to your dashboard and you see how you're performing. So that's basically a walkthrough of the tool. We think it's very easy to use. Now, something I might just get ahead of in case someone's going to ask me this. what if you've got bills that go across a calendar year? So let's say you've got on scope 2 an electricity bill and it's for December, January, February. What you would do there is you would put the entire amount from the bill there and write it in your notes that there's a month that's included in that. So what we might then be able to do is do an equation to work out how much energy, how much electricity you're using per day, and break that down to how many days are within the calendar year. So long as you're calling it out and writing it in the notes, that is fine. So often we find that people have billing that's sort of outside of the range that what we're interested in, but we do have to cut it off at some point. We do have to have a reporting period. So look, that's the tool in a nutshell. Again, we want as many people to get onto this tool as possible and fill it out. We'd love it if as many distilleries as possible across Victoria and then eventually Australia can jump on here and start to measure their impact and their performance against sustainability metrics, and we can really push performance in sustainability and efficiency and call Victoria first and then Australia, world gold standard for sustainability efficiency in producing great alcoholic beverage. So, thanks everybody for your time. I might hand back to Sam or Jeff in this instant to see if anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate that walkthrough. For me, it was great to run through it again and just have a refresher. And it did remind me of how good a toolkit and dashboard it is for such a simple thing. It's really nice. It inspired me to get my act into gear and finish my 2024 reporting. We did have a question here, which we might run through quickly, and then I'll do a bit of a close. So Jeff's got a nice one here on, of the 3 scope categories, which one do you expect can have the greatest overall impact when picking projects to improve efficiency? It's a nice broad question.
Yeah, so just in terms of scale, what we see across the board in businesses everywhere is that the impact of scope 3 emissions is quite usually the largest. However, it's the scope that you've got least control of. So these are the operations of people up and downstream from you, and you don't have any direct control over how they run their business. What you do control is whether you use their product or not, and what you can do in that space is ask how they get their products, and how their practices are. Scope 1 and 2 is a really is usually less in terms of the greenhouse gas emitted. However, it's your baby. It's what you can control. So anything that you do at your level can be impacted, whether it's sort of putting insulation into the building so you don't have to heat and cool it as much, working on LED lighting, working on different things on your project gives you that satisfaction. So you can immediately impact your emissions inventory by working on the things that you can control.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I think it is scope 3 is the big one, and it's really difficult because you've got so many different inputs and so many things that are out of your control. But I think you can control who you're purchasing from, and so you can speak to your suppliers about where they're sourcing from, where they're manufacturing, and what their kind of greenhouse gas and sustainability policies are. So if you're working with suppliers that have got that built in, then you kind of make sure your scope 3 is looking good as well, and you can make some big moves there. But then looking at your own scope 1 and 2, using it, electrification, buying green electricity, or just reducing consumption. So there's lots of ways to do it, and it kind of depends on every distillery. And I think what we've learned through this, really reinforces how different each distillery is, how different their requirements are, how different the way they make their spirits, whether it's, gin or vodka or whiskey or anything else. Like they're all quite different. So I think everyone's got a different requirement, but hopefully this tool can help through those recommendations show what's worth looking at and what's of value. So I'll bring it to a close now, but I think thanks so much to Richard and to the Foresight team for pulling this program together and driving it and working with us over the next few years to keep this growing and stronger. We're really excited to be leading the way in Australian spirits and in global distilling to have an industry built package. And I think we're really fortunate that we've got this together. It makes us really strong. I would say one way I find really useful to get the reporting together is just to export from your financial system. So normally you've got a coding system or some sort of key that you can use, and that's how I normally do it, is basically export either by provider or type, and that way I can get it all in one little CSV and then drag it in. So I'm not organized enough to do it in time, so I do it at the end. We're looking for 3 reports coming out of this, so we will have them coming out, and the timing will be, the target's sort of around this Q2 to come out. So it'll be great to build on those and have those come through, but it does require distilleries to use the toolkit. So I strongly encourage everyone to do it. If you're watching this webinar, hopefully you've got it at 1.5 speed and you're sick of me talking, looking forward to me wrapping up, but getting the data in there and sending it in. So we will email out requests through Spirits Victoria and talk about that through all our catch-ups through to make sure that you're aware of where and when you need to be doing it. If you do have any questions, please do email them through to Spirits Victoria Association, info@spiritsvic, and we will endeavour to get those back to you. But if you do have any questions about the toolkit or the purpose of it or anything technical, then please send them through and we can try and deal with those. And that about wraps it up. I'll give Dev 1 second. No, thanks. No worries. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, team, for pulling this together. Everyone,
Thanks,
have a great
everyone.
afternoon and day.
See you later. Bye.